Welcome one and all to the Storybox podcast, the place to be if you are a lover of stories. My name is Jay Phantom, former real estate agent now, living my purpose, sharing amazing stories from people all over the world. I'm grateful that you're here today. Now let's journey into the Storybox together and hear more about whose story will be unboxed today. Well, everyone, it's my absolute pleasure to welcome the sweet, kind, and lovely Dami Im to the Storybox podcast today. Dami is one of Australia's most respected artists, a piano virtuoso. She has also a Master of Music Studies in Contemporary Voice and her voice first captured our attention and hearts when she won the X Factor Australia in 2013. I just told her recently that our whole family were rooting for her and yelling and screaming on the TV, like, yes, when Dami won. It almost feels like it was a lifetime ago, but your self-titled debut album and single Alive both debuted at number 1 on the ARIA charts and went on to release 3 more acclaimed studio albums, performing all around the world. In 2016, Dami became Eurovision royalty when she earned the highest score ever achieved by an Australian entry, and a single, Sound of Silence, charted globally. You've also done 2 of my other favorite songs, which is Super Love and Gladiator. Dami, it's an absolute pleasure to welcome you to the Storybox podcast today.
Oh, pleasure. Thanks for having me.
I apologize. My voice seems to have escaped me in a way.
You caught a virus?
No, I hope not. But hopefully I can bring my voice back. Let me get a quick drink.
Well, I have a coffee right here because I heard this one's a, longish, deep chat. So I made myself a nice coffee.
You've heard very well. Yes, I do like having deep and meaningful chats. Before we do that, I have one question that I normally love asking all my guests to start off with, which is, what does success look like to you?
Diving right in.
That's it.
Success. I guess success for me is knowing... This sounds so deep, but knowing what your values are and living according to it every day, I think that is success. Obviously, there's other meanings of success, like, as a muso, I'd love to be successful on the charts and all of those things, be able to tour more and more fans, or different jobs will have those kinds of success. But ultimately, I think real success is if you're able to go towards your values, and everybody's values and their dreams are different, and not everybody is not everybody knows what their values are because they never had the chance to sit down and think about it. They just did whatever came to them, and some people might feel unhappy because of that. But I think if you know what your values are and you're going towards it, that I think that's definitely a path of success, I think.
I like that, Dami. It's a good answer. And I'm curious about some of your values that you hold dear to your heart. Are you able to share some of them?
Yeah, so for me, my values, some of them are, definitely being creative is one of my values. Creating and, trying all sorts of different things, I think comes all under that umbrella. So I think I'm doing that. So I'm successful in that way. My other values, I love my family and my friends, and being able to spend time with people that I care about and people that care about me is really, really important. So I try and do that. And the other one is helping other people in some way or another. And that gives me a lot of joy and meaning to my life when I feel like I'm adding value to like helping another person, whether it be through my music or just through having a chat with them, or, to be honest, when I knew I was doing this interview with you today, Jay, and I knew it's like a deep, like inspirational kind of, interview. And I woke up today not feeling that great, like not just physically, but I just felt a bit like, really down. And I think this year has been, there's been a lot of ups and downs. So I really thought about postponing this because I'm like, I'm not going to be able to say anything meaningful. I'll just be a real downer. But then as I was preparing, I was like, I changed my mind. I'm like, okay, I'm going to, I'm not going to be that person. Like I'll be a professional and I'll prepare it. And as I was kind of preparing my mind for it, I felt like I got the energy to feel better because, because I felt like, okay, this is an opportunity to help other people that are feeling down at the moment. And, there's so many reasons to be sad and feel, like be miserable. But I guess when there's a purpose to need to be more positive, that you can feel better. And I think that's what happened to me today. So, thank you.
No, thank you for sharing that. Like, honestly, because I was feeling that a very similar way this morning. Like the last couple of days, I haven't been feeling myself for some reason. And my girlfriend even said to me the other day, she's like, I just don't feel like you're here. Where are you? Like, I wasn't present. I was just feeling out of it. And I realized, like, I was on a run this morning at 4 a.m. and I was like trying to figure out where I went. And I was in a lot of pain, like mentally, physically. And I didn't really know how to, I was stuck a little bit. And you have those days when you do feel stuck and you're just trying to get yourself out of that rut. It's like, what do I do? And for me, like I'm a Christian dummy. So I was just like praying and asking God. I was like, God, I need you to just help me here. Give me the answer here. And when I got home this morning and I was getting ready for work, it was almost like this. God gave me a verse, be still and know that I am God. And I was like, that's what I need. I just need, because I've been going at full speed, nonstop for a long time this whole year. I just didn't stop. And it was like, listen to my voice. I need you to listen to me. And I was like,
I love that.
I was so excited to actually speak to you today. So I appreciate you not cancelling on me.
Oh, yeah, I'm so now even more glad I didn't cancel. Yeah. No, but I think it's like, sometimes if you have somebody you need to take care of, like you might think that person is a burden. But then if you think about it another way, it's like because of that person, you force yourself to, pick yourself up, and it actually makes you feel better because there's a reason to, get up and stop like just being miserable and dramatic about your own life, and you get to look up and look at other people. So I think that's great.
Well, I'm looking forward even more now to really diving into your backstory and your mindset with certain things. You mentioned earlier, like, I know you've been preparing for this, but you might not have prepared for this kind of question. You mentioned creativity, like you get this sense of joy when you are creative. And I'm curious, because I've only asked this question to a few other people. What does creativity actually mean to you?
I think creativity means, I don't know, I think just trying to let your mind be a bit more flexible and trying to think outside the box a little bit, and like that can be really hard if you're not used to it. If you're used to doing things a certain way, it's hard to think there's other possibilities. But if, according to research, your creativity improves the more you practice it. It's like a muscle, your creative muscle. So I try and, when I'm writing songs or when I'm coming up with like concepts or even just how to, do my life, like I try and like consciously try and be, more flexible and think like, what other ways haven't I, thought of, and try not get stuck in whatever pattern that I'm always stuck in. And I think that really enriches your life, and you get to, and I think it's also about being curious about different things, just letting your curiosity guide you and just following your curiosity to see what's out there in the world and being really like enjoying those things that you discover.
What are some things that sort of inspire you to create all this amazing music? Like, I'm curious about where you've been able to come up with like these songs, Super Love, Gladiator, Sound of Silence, which are incredibly positive and they really hit your soul and they make you. And I'm curious, where did you find the inspiration for? We'll start with Super Love first, and then we'll move to the others.
Well, no, Super Love wasn't actually a song that I wrote. That was my first single following Alive, which was my X Factor single, winning single. And Super Love, the moment, like, actually, after I won X Factor, I'd been writing heaps and trying to look for my follow-up single for ages. And it just, nothing really landed. And even with my A&R at Sony, like nobody, like there was no songs that were like we were all happy with. And then my A&R played this song and he said, "This isn't for you. This is not you, definitely not your kind of song, but let's have a listen." And I was like, "Can you send that to me? Like I really like that song." And it just had this something so special about it that I had to sing it. And because it's so vocally challenging and like it's something that really challenged me to push my limits. And also the message of it was so, so positive, but in a really fun, exciting way that I just knew was going to be my next single release.
Has music always been part of your life? Did you grow up writing music, singing, that sort of thing?
So I wasn't always, I never thought that I was going to be a singer until I was in my late teens, early 20s. Well, that's still not that late, hey, in hindsight, but I felt like a real late starter. Because some people sing, know they want to be a singer from when they're like 7. But it wasn't the case for me. I played the piano. So I came to Australia, going right back. My family moved to Australia for me and my brother's education. My parents wanted us to learn English, and we ended up staying here because we really loved it here. But when I first came here, I didn't speak any English, and, kids just thought I was really dumb, because I'm just like not knowing what's going on. But I had this chance at an school assembly, and there was a big grand piano on stage, and I had the opportunity to play like a Mozart sonata or something. And that's when everyone looked at me like, "Oh, wow," and all the teachers were like, "Wow." And at that moment I knew this is what I have to do. This is what will make me, give me my identity and feel like I'm good at something. And it was a really tiny school, so I was good at piano, like the best piano player, even like all the way up till year 12. Like no one else was better than me. So it, made me feel really good. So I just practiced, and I was getting all these awards and winning of competitions, all of that. So like music was always a part of my life, but I only started singing in my bedroom when I was a teenager. And then I started singing at church, my Korean church that we were all attending. And I improved. Then I ended up, after my piano degree, I ended up doing a jazz contemporary voice masters. And then I knew that that was what I was going to do.
What do you love the most about music as a whole?
I guess, I don't know, like it's weird to answer that question for me because I feel like music was always just there, like my mum was an opera singer and she still sings at church and stuff, but she used to sing professionally. And, music was just in my house. Mum used to take me to watch like symphony orchestras play, and Dad played his guitar. And so, yeah, it was just something we all just did. But I guess, yeah, I just can't imagine, life without it. I think it's something that enriches your life. I don't know. I've just never been without it, really.
Did you ever think that you couldn't make a career out of music, or was it always going to be sort of like this path towards I'm going to make something of this gift? No.
Well, so when I first decided to be a singer and I, went in to do my degree in contemporary voice, after that I tried to, have a career as a singer, and I didn't realize how hard it was going to be.
Hard in
but well, so what I did was I used to sing at, my first job was to sing at a Chinese restaurant and singing, like jazz and old pop songs, like once every week. Then this was when I was still at uni. So I was like, yeah, this is great. But after that job ended, there was, no one's going to just pay you to sing, like I didn't know how to get that to happen. And I was writing songs. I made an album during my uni years, which, it was very not great, like musically. It was just something I tried. And it was mostly like Christian music. So my dad sent it to a Christian music, internet Christian music station in Korea. So they said they could try and help me, to promote the music and be able to sing. So I went over to back to Korea, and, I was promoting and singing at churches and, selling my CD after the service and, like standing outside in the foyer going like, hey, with my parents. That was me. And, but yeah, it was just really, really hard to get it going. Like if I knew I couldn't keep going with it. It wasn't sustainable. And I also wanted to come back to Australia and live here. This was home for me. So, I think that's when I sort of needed to find something else to help me. And that was when I found X Factor, and I was like, okay, if I do a TV thing, it'll help me get more gigs, more churches, more restaurants, whatever. I went into it like that. And then I won. So that sort of improved things a lot.
You sound quite humble when you say, I won, and then it's improved my life tremendously. That is so
well,
cool.
yeah, I didn't expect it to go like that, you know. That was honestly my attitude.
Went in there with the right heart and the right spirit, and God's blessed you as a result. And one of my questions from that is, how has your faith played a role in what you do today?
Well, I guess it's constantly evolving, you know. Yeah, like when I first won X Factor, I think I was 24, pretty naive. Hey, you're 24?
24 now, yeah.
A baby. And I had grown up in such a small world, and I spent a lot of time, I loved my church, my Korean church, but it was a very small place and I didn't really know what was going on outside of the church. But I always knew, I had this heart that I knew that I needed to reach out to people outside of the church, because I'm like, inside the church, they already know Jesus and they're all good. So I was like, why am I, just stuck here and preaching to the same people kind of thing. So I knew I had to go out, but I didn't know what that even meant, what people outside were thinking or living for. It was like a foreign land, very alien place for me. And especially coming from a Korean immigrant Christian background is also different. I didn't know what mainstream Australian society looked like, even though I went to school here and everything. It's a very small place. So it was really hard at the start because I thought I was going to influence and, change everybody, and they're all going to know Jesus, and I'm going to, I don't know, those big dreams, whatever. And I made it big, as in one X Factor, but it wasn't just changing everybody else that I was singing to. So it's been, how long was that? 7 years. And I think over time, I've sort of learned more about what the world is like, what people are seeking and what they're thinking in their lives. I don't know. I think it's been a real educational journey for me. And at the same time, knowing more about myself and, just my relationship with God. So it's a long story, isn't it?
It's good. I like that because oftentimes when people go in with these hopes, dreams, and aspirations, I'm going to change the world, I'm going to change it for Christ, that sort of thing, and they get swept up in the fame of society, and they can oftentimes sort of forget that, and they can sort of go in the way of the world, which is completely normal to happen. But I think you've been on a journey discovering for yourself, like what you mentioned, just the way the world thinks and how you can go about influencing the world in a positive way for Christ, and figuring out faith for yourself. I think that's an admirable thing, Dami.
One of the things that I still do love doing and did love from the start was partnering with Compassion.
Yes.
So for those of you that don't know, Compassion is a charity organization that lets you sponsor children living in poverty around the world, and you get to, sponsor them to be able to go to school and healthcare and all of that. You get to write letters to them. And I was actually a big fan of Compassion, and I was sponsoring kids since I was 17. So when I won X Factor, that's one thing I knew I wanted to do. My husband really wanted us to do it as well together. So I've become a Compassion ambassador and going to visit our Compassion Kids in different countries, Uganda and India and all that. That was really great. And, you know, I knew that was definitely really obvious work of God and in having a good influence and getting more people to sponsor. And also, you know, Compassion does their work in Jesus' name, which, you know, it's subtle, but it's also, I think, I love that through that people find out that Christians are at the front of looking after the, you know, world's poorest and people that are in need. So I love doing that.
I believe that it's children are part of God's heart, and there's countless stories in the Bible of God mentioning and teaching kids and having kids there around him. And I think God's heart is really to look after the poor, sick, homeless, and those people that are orphans as well. I think that's a very
absolutely.
It's something that's on my heart as well. Like, my heart is for young people too. With everything that I've been through in my life, I want to help. I want to help everybody, but specifically young people, because a lot of the time, the world that they're growing up in right now, it's tough. There's it's a lot harder what it is now than when it was when I grew up, and that's not that long ago. And so if I can, in some way, shape or form, help them realize, hang on a minute, you are worth something, you are valuable, you do have a purpose in life, you don't have to be stuck. There is someone out there that does love you, and you got to understand that you need to love yourself first and foremost. And I believe that your story, Dami, and the story of so many other people can really help shape a young person's life. And just hearing the fact that you are this famous musician, you still hold true to your values in the beginning with what you said, and you still give back. I think that's a very inspirational thing for a young person to hear right now. It's like, you don't have to conform. You don't have to go the way that people want you to go. You can go your own direction and still be blessed, even though it is hard. And I can only imagine it would have been hard for you. So thank you, Dami. Thank you for...
Well, I look to, you know, all sorts of different people who are doing that, you know, and not conforming, people who are, you know that they don't need to brag in order to feel valuable, because they know they're already loved and they're valued. They know their worth, so they don't need to do all these things. And I, you know, like, there's so many people that inspire me. So, you know, if I could do that for somebody, that if it does that, yeah, that would be so special.
Oh, 100%. Who has made the greatest impact on your life, whether it's mentally, physically, emotionally, spiritually, or financially?
So many people, but, you know, I guess through this year, especially my husband, Noah, because, you know, it can be tough, you know, mentally, physically, spiritually. But yeah, he's always, I feel like he's got this like generator inside him that helps him to spring right back up. Like, when there's things that are down, reasons to be sad about. Yeah, he's like, there's this like a generator, and he's back, and you go, whoa. But yeah, like, to have somebody like that in your life and somebody like that close to you, it really impacts you. And I think that's, you know how they say you are a combination of, is it 3 of the closest people you have in your life?
Yeah.
And I think that's so true, you know. Yeah, if you want to be a good person, then look at who you're closest to. And if you don't like that, then maybe, you know, change that up. Just stay close to people you really respect and you want to be like, because you will become that person.
I totally agree with you on that one. I'm curious, how did you meet your husband really quickly? And then we'll sort of dive into a few other questions.
We met at church, at that Korean church.
Wow.
Yeah.
Was it love at first sight, or did he have to do a lot of work?
I think love at first sight, because I I had a crush on him when I was like 13, and we didn't date straight away because he's 5 years older than me, and we only started dating after he went away for a couple of years, and then he came back, and that's when we started dating. And yeah,
Wow.
Rest is history,
as they say. That's amazing. This is one, it might be a hard question, but we'll see how we go. What has been the worst piece of advice you've ever received?
Oh, that's a hard one. Worst piece of advice. What's yours?
My one would be, it's easier said than done.
Oh, why?
Because it's not oftentimes easier. It's like, it's a lot harder to do something than it is to actually say it. And I think for me, when I heard that, I'm like, oh, great. I can just say it, but then actually putting it into practice, that was the hard part. And it was probably like the worst piece of advice I ever got from somebody. And when I realized that it was actually pretty bad advice, I was like, okay, if I say something, I need to actually really mean it. And it is really, really difficult for me to actually accomplish what I've said to do, whether if it's a big thing, like for me saying one day I'm going to start this podcast, for example. It's easy for me to say it, but actually doing it on a daily basis, that's the hard part. So if I say to a young person, hey mate, it's easier said than done. Okay. Okay, Jay, what do you mean by that? I'm not giving him the right kind of information. What I should be saying is, hey mate, you can do this, and here's how you do it. Give him the tools necessary to do it. If that makes any sense at all.
Yeah, no, it does. Yeah, I think mine bad advice that I've heard would be like, just think positively. Just be positive. I think that's not a good advice, because you can't just try and be positive. Because I've tried that before and just be like, yeah, because when you're faced with difficulty and negative circumstances, you can't just unthink it. And I think the better approach for me is to just acknowledge that you're having those difficulties and the negativity, and just like acknowledge it. Because if you ignore it and try to cover it up with positive thoughts, it will keep coming back. It's like that elephant in the room. Like you just keep, like, if you try and unthink it, you'll keep thinking about it. So it's better to acknowledge it, but just be like, okay, hello, you're here and it's hard, but I'm going to choose to do what is right for me, what is, what matches up with my value, whether it be, okay, I'm still going to practice my singing, even though my brain's telling me you suck, you can't do it, whatever it may be. So I think trying to unthink your thoughts, whatever it may be, that never works.
Yes, I have to relate to that. And also, sometimes the worst piece of advice that we get from people ends up being the best piece of advice, depending on how we look at it. And if we have that mindset of, oh, this is just bad all the time, then we're going to feel miserable. We won't grow. We won't develop. We're going to be stuck. And that's why it's so important to really form this mindset of growth. And I like what you said about the positivity thing, because it's not easy. Like both you and I weren't feeling exactly positive today, but we've had this amazing conversation, and I feel more positive as a result.
Same.
So thank you for that.
Oh, thank you.
Your advice ended up being fantastic advice for me. But
Aww.
I also have to say to young people that might be listening to this, if you are struggling with being positive, it's okay to have those days. And
yes.
It's not okay. And don't feel like you're different or anything like that. You're human. It's okay.
Exactly.
If Dami Im and myself can have those days, you're allowed to as well.
Yeah. Just be kind to yourself, I'd say,
Don't beat yourself up.
Yeah, exactly. Sometimes you just have to cut some slack and just be like, have a self-compassion day. That's okay. And you'll be better later.
Yeah. My final two questions for you, Dami. This one is my all-time favorite question. I ask it at the end of all my interviews. Being able to reach the age of 100 and your friends have decided to put together a film for you of pretty much everything you've ever said and everything you've ever done, then ask me how in the world they got it. We'll just call it magic. But they've shown it to you on your 100th birthday. What do you want that film to say and to show about your life?
Oh, wow. 100. Well, I guess I wanted to say that I made lots of great songs and memories with my fans or listeners. I like to think that I kept going with my music and my concerts even when I'm old, like 70 or 80. I don't know if I'd change my mind, but at the moment I feel like that would be cool if I look back and be like, wow, she just kept going. She had a career that lasted 70 years. And yeah, there might be ups and downs, but that would be a dream.
I love that. A good legacy to leave behind. My last question is more of a fun one, so you can relax. It's not hard. It's what is the weirdest food combination you've ever tried?
Weirdest? Let's think. What did I have? I don't know. I don't think I do weird combinations. Probably the weirdest is like Macca's chips and ice cream. That's what everybody does, right?
That is so cool. I love it.
Everyone. Oh, that's not even that weird. That's nice.
Well, to some people, it might be weird.
If you haven't tried it, try it.
Yes, exactly. You're probably going to laugh at this one. My weirdest one that I've done is actually quite recently. I don't know if you know YoPro yogurt.
YoPro?
Yeah, YoPro yogurt. There's like the vanilla kind. It's basically yogurt, right? And the natural confectionery lollies. And I was trying, is it funny? Okay, so I was eating the natural lollies and a spoonful of yogurt. And I was going to put peanut butter with the yogurt and stir it around, but I couldn't. So I put the spoon in my mouth with the yogurt with the lollies, and I thought, it actually tastes pretty damn good. But I don't think anyone had actually ever done like lollies with yogurt before, and it really.
What's your new business idea?
Tell me about it. Like I was talking to a chef the other day, and he's like, "It's genius."
There you go. Well, yeah, way to make yogurt unhealthy, but also lollies healthy.
There you go. A yogurt lolly flavor or something like that. Who knows?
Well, that doesn't sound that bad. Sounds yum.
I think it would take off. If business venture. There we go.
There you go.
Dami, thank you so much for your time today, for your story and for your positive attitude during this podcast. Really appreciate you and everything you're doing, putting out there into the world. So once again, thank you for coming on the Storybox podcast.
Thanks so much for having me.